if it wasn't for me, I don't think he would have never been found, because I'm the one that called them and told them that I had went over to where his phone was pinging, and I just got like this real bad feeling in my stomach. And I said, I just think y'all need to search the river. They said that he was pinned to a log, missing all his main organs, his penis and a testicle. Who could be so cruel to do this to somebody?
What will happen to Dylan Shoemaker in prison? Well, in Florida prison, this man will be tortured, beaten, extorted, poisoned, stabbed up on every single corner that he turns. In case you haven't done your research, a little history about this guy is he was watching his ex-girlfriend's kid at the time, and he beat the kid to death. Then, when he was getting sentenced 25 to life, he was crying in there, saying how he didn't mean to do it. Basically, he was trying to pretend like he was the victim in all of this. I will tell you guys this. As someone who's spent 6 years in Florida's prison, that guy is not only weak mentally, physically, disciplined, on every level, he is weak. So not only will the predators come after him for everything, and when I mean everything, I mean everything, but he has a different level of hate coming towards his way. You know, not only will the booty bandits be after him for his manhood, not only will the gangs be after him to extort him and just basically use him as a punching bag at their disposal, not only will his family be getting extorted for their son's safety on the inside, but the regular people doing time, just say for burglaries or drugs, you know, non-violent offenders, are gonna fuck him up. He brought the wrath of the entire system down on him. And the guards aren't just gonna let him check in and be protected in PC. He's gonna have a lot of accidents happen to him. And people think it's cruel and that the convicts shouldn't be the ones to administer the justice, and neither should the guards. But let's be real. If you had the chance to put your hands on a man that beat a child to death, ask yourself what you would do in that position. Imagine you're doing 15, 20 years. You've been down 10 years. You know, you got 10 more years to go. You know, you don't even know what the outside world feels like anymore. You're missing your family. You're missing your kids. And in comes this little punk ass motherfucker who killed a baby with his bare hands and cried like it was an accident. Ask yourself what you would do. Say you only had a year left and that dude was your cellmate. You ain't gonna let that dude eat, live, walk, talk, nothing. And anybody that befriends him will get it just as bad. So stay out, stay free, protect our children. Us.
This is Christina Kettlewell, or the 8-Day Bride. In 1947, Christina was 22 years old, living in Mimico, when on May 12th, she eloped with Jack Kettlewell, a war veteran. The two had known each other for 3 years at this point and had gotten engaged about 4 to 5 weeks prior to their elopement. But Christina's family was not too thrilled about their marriage, mainly because of Jack's best friend, 28-year-old professional ballroom dancer Ronald Berry. Christina, Jack, and Ronald were basically weirdly inseparable. And Christina's family believed that either Ronald was madly in love with Christina or that the three of them were in a relationship. On May 17th, the couple jumped in the car and loaded up to go on their honeymoon at this romantic remote cottage in Severn Falls. Now, this cottage was owned by Ronald, and he had offered them this little getaway as his wedding gift to them. But instead of the couple having this romantic getaway to themselves, Ronald went with them. Despite the fact that Ronald was on their honeymoon with with them, everything was going completely fine at first. But then after just a few hours of being there, Christina started acting a little weird. She would go into these like random crying fits and be zoned out into a daze. Ronald later said that these episodes were fueled by conversations he was having with Christina, where she was feeling insecure about whether Jack truly loved her or not. And according to Ronald and Jack, Christina's behavior only got more and more erratic as the trip went on. On the morning of May 20th, Ronald woke up before the newlyweds, and he decided that he was going to go outside and sunbathe until they got up. He returned to the cottage at around 11 a.m. only to find that it was on fire. Ronald has changed his story many times as to what exactly went down when he entered the home, but it mainly concerns whether or not Christina was in the home at this time or not. In one of the versions of his story, he said that he had entered the cottage to find that it was on fire and found Christina standing in the living room with tears in her eyes and a blank stare. But in all versions of this story, Jack was on the couch in the living room with a very apparent head injury and seemed to be semi-unconscious. Ronald said he then picked up Jack and rushed him out of the home before returning to get some other belongings and or Christina. And it was at this point that he claimed that Christina was nowhere to be found. So once he got out of the house, he called for help and then jumped on the boat with Jack to rush him to the hospital. First responders rushed to the cottage, but within an hour, it was completely burned to the ground. Some police were sent to the hospital to talk with Ronald and Jack, while others were sent to the cottage in order to search for Christina. After canvassing the area for a few hours, they finally found Christina. She was just 150 feet away from the cottage in 9 inches of water. Dead. This was very odd because there were no apparent injuries or burns anywhere on Christina's body, but an autopsy found many interesting things. Part 2 is on the playlist below.
My head was found in a pot at my ex-boyfriend's house, then they made a soup with my organs. I am Abby Choi. I had the perfect life. I was a model, I was young, full of dreams, and famous. I was married to Alex when I was 18. He was an ordinary man, but so extraordinary to me. We had a child, we were inseparable. But at 20, everything changed, we separated. I met Tam Chum, my former best friend. We shared love and 3 children. But Alex never accepted my new life. I had an apartment in Hong Kong, $73 million, which I had offered to Alex's family. But personal problems forced me to sell it and move his family to another apartment. His father, a former policeman, didn't like this. One day, Anthony, Alex's brother and my private driver, came to pick me up. That was the last time anyone saw me alive. The police searched a house rented by Alex's family, finding tools of crime. And then, the unthinkable. My body, in a freezer. My head. They had put it in a pot. And they had made a soup. A soup. With my organs. A DNA test confirmed the horrible truth. I hope my children can grow up in peace, away from this terrible story. This is my story, Abby Choi's story. And I want you to remember it so that this horror never happens again.
Me and my daughters were killed by the person who we thought is our biggest protector, my husband and their dad, Chris Watts. My name is Sean N. Watts. In 2012, we got married and together we built a life that I thought was picture perfect. I embraced my role as a mother to our 2 precious daughters, Bella and Celeste. I was also expecting my 3rd child. But in August 2018, everything came crashing down. Me and my 2 daughters were reported missing by my close friend. The police were called, and the frantic search for us began. The hours turned into days, and the truth slowly unraveled. It was revealed that Chris was involved in our disappearance. I was strangled to death and buried, and my daughters were dumped into the crude oil tanks. He did this just because he wanted to leave us to be with his girlfriend. Though my life was cut short, I hope that my story inspires others to stand against violence and to honor the memory of those whose lives have been unjustly taken.
When's the last time you were on the internet? It's been a couple years. I think your dad is a person of interest in a missing person case. Excuse me? Just listen. 14-year-old cold case. Solved, then immediately unsolved. Oh no. 14 years ago, the 2-year-old son of 80s TV star Beryl Grace, Jason Grace, was reported missing by his older sister. Thalia Grace informed the police that the 2-year-old Jason was missing at the hands of their mother. When questioned, the fallen-off movie star stated that the boy had been taken from her but refused to disclose by who. When pressed as to why she did not report him missing, she was uncooperative and babbling nonsense. A manhunt was initiated due to suspicion that the child was in danger and had not been simply surrendered. Unfortunately, not a single lead was generated from this search, and the case would have no revelations until 14 years later. Here's where we come in. Oh no! Jason Grace, now age 16, was admitted to a boarding school in California. No ID, no transcript, no record of his whereabouts for the last 14 years, and at the endorsement of Tristan McLean, another recently fallen-off movie star. No! Where is this? Law enforcement barely had time to investigate before the boy went missing again. He disappeared from his dorm room, leaving with unidentified teenagers still in his school uniform, and has not reappeared. Months later, law enforcement is still baffled with few leads. When questioned, the school board had a vague explanation as to how the boy was admitted in the first place, with no record of previous education. You're in this too, by the way. Oh, what? The director simply stated that Tristan McLean's daughter, Piper McLean, was incredibly persuasive in convincing them to accept Jason as a student. Oh. Did you charm speak Jason's way into school? Maybe a little. It is unsure what he meant by that, but he declined to comment further. Public confusion and the odd details of this case have led to many conspiracy theories, very few actually grounded in any evidence. Some speculate that the child has been in hiding to escape his mother and only reappeared after she passed in a car crash a few years ago. This offers no explanation for the recent disappearance, however. Some speculate that the disappearance may have something to do with the unknown biological father of the teen, and some have even suggested that it may be Tristan McLean himself. No! Oh my god, for what other reasons would he be attempting to place an ID-less teen in school? This claim has slightly strengthened when a video resurfaced from an unexplained incident at the Grand Canyon about a year ago involving a class from a correctional school. Does the mist not affect security cameras? The students in the video were identified as Piper McLean, Leo Valdez, and who we know now to be Jason Grace, along with 2 other unidentified individuals, proving another link between the Graces and McLeans. Are we gonna get arrested again?
Watch the body cam footage of Brian Koberger talking his way out of a traffic ticket 1 month before the Idaho 4 murders.
Hello, I am Officer Loangus. Stops being audio and video recorded. I think you know why I stopped you. You ran the red light.
What actually happened was I was stuck in the middle of the intersection.
Yeah,
so
I was behind you the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So technically you're not supposed to enter the intersection at all for that reason, because if the light turns red, then you're stuck in the intersection, and then you run the red light. So that's the reason I stopped you. Do you have your license on you?
Yep.
Do you have the registration and insurance?
We just get this for you out.
You what?
I'm just gonna get this out for you.
Okay.
So would you explain that to me a little bit further? So in Pennsylvania, when you're stuck like in the intersection, you have to make the left. So what would the appropriate thing for me to have done? Just
You're
back up
not
in
supposed
that
to
situation?
block an intersection like that in Washington, so just by you blocking the intersection, that's technically a ticketable violation, and then you're running a red light, so it's another ticketable offense. So you're not supposed to proceed into the intersection until you can go, because a lot of people do what you just did, right? Is like you're sitting in the intersection waiting, and then it turns, and then you're blocking, so.
Yeah, there was a little bit of confusion with speeding because someone had stopped. I wasn't sure what they were doing, and then they put on their light to turn.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that maybe they were letting me go through.
Oh.
Did you see that?
No. Mm-mm.
I feel like right before I made the turn, there was someone who like made a right. They didn't have their signal on, so I wasn't sure if they were just waiting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I would just advise just don't enter the intersection until you can go, so you don't get stuck. Let's see.
But in that situation, the best thing to do then would be back up and not
I don't know if there's a best thing to do in that situation, because you're either going to back up into somebody,
Yeah.
or you're going to run a red light. So, or you're going to be sitting in an intersection. There's not really a great option there.
Yeah, I was just slightly into the crosswalk, so you know, yeah, where I'm from Pennsylvania, we actually don't have like crosswalks.
Oh,
so even if you're kind of slightly, there's a little bit more leeway as well. Like there are a few lines, like there's one white line and there's another one in front. Like there's like a certain margin from which you can actually kind of put your vehicle, place your vehicle.
Yeah, so I know laws vary state to state, but there is a law in Washington for blocking an intersection like that, proceeding through when you don't, when you're just stalling. I forget the actual verbiage, I can find it for you, but it's like stalling, blocking an intersection.
Yeah, I'm just curious about the law. I don't mean to...
Oh no, yeah, I can find it for you. Yeah.
Anything.
1 second. That looks good on a Hyundai. I don't see Pennsylvania registration like at all. Okay, let's see. Expires November 22nd, or 2022. Okay. And
yeah, one of those is actually...
yeah, okay, that looks good. I'll hand that back to you. I'm just going to go check your info. I'll try and find that RCW, the law for you, and I'll be right back.
Thank you.
All right.
They were the first to arrive, walking through the entrance nearest to the park's stables. They were in celebratory mood. Those they invited came later. And as the summer evening neared midnight, the guests drifted away, leaving the two women wearing fairy lights, dancing to music under the night sky. But somewhere in the park lurked a complete stranger, Daniel Hussein. He'd left his father's address at around 9:15 that evening to enter the park through a different entrance. He lay in wait for 4 hours. He was there to kill. The 18-year-old had written out a demonic pact and signed it in his own blood. His psychotic mind had devised a plan to perform 6 sacrifices every 6 months, and only women. The handwritten contract found at his family home entitled Agreement laid out the returns for such murderous acts: to win the Mega Millions super jackpot, to receive other fruitful rewards, and to never be suspected of any crimes by the police. The only alteration was to correct the spelling of the word receive.
He is conscious, calculating, and trying to work through how to achieve what he sees as being his objectives. And so there's a logic to his thinking in that respect. What is illogical, which is unreal, bizarre, aberrant, is the sense that he believes that he is doing this through some deal with demonic characters.
This was the last photo of the women still alive, taken by Nicole's iPhone. The Old Bailey was told that one can see both women appear to glance to their left. The time was 13 minutes past 1 on the morning of June the 6th. I don't need to detail the ferocity of the attack. Needless to say, it was, in the prosecution's words, shocking savagery. The sisters stood no chance. Their bodies were dragged into the undergrowth, only to be found by a search party of friends and family a day and a half later. The killer had left a trail of blood, DNA, a knife, and a pair of latex gloves. CCTV shows Hussein returning to his father's house at around 4 in the morning. No trousers, jacket round his waist, and with an injured right hand tucked inside. The following day he was at a hospital's A&E to seek treatment for slashes to his hand during the attack. The wounds from his own knife required stitches. He told his dad he'd been robbed. Police believe those injuries prevented Hussein from becoming a serial killer, as he had laid out in the agreement. The weapon itself, the trial concluded, was from a block of knives bought by Hussein in an Asda store. Being 18 meant all he had to show was a passport with proof of age for the purchase to be approved, no questions asked. Yet this was a young man with a history of mental health issues, who had also been referred to the Anti-Terror Prevent program for expressing far-right views.
I think he went in October 2017, came out May 2018. During that time he received support from social services, health, his own school and the Prevent and Channel programme. And even after he was released, he went through a 6-month and a 12-month check again, really, to make sure things were okay and nothing was seen.
Those who went to school with Danyal Hussein have told Channel 4 News how his extreme views began to emerge in class from the age of 12.
We knew him to be a Satanist. He had a sinister energy about him.
Danyal was a very jealous person. He stalked my friend to the point where she'd seen him while walking home.
He would shout out dark remarks. History was Heil Hitler. Religious education was I worship the devil. He would often say he would kill you.
That's it. This was the moment the potential serial killer was arrested at his family home.
You're under arrest. Come out. Come out the address. Keep walking towards me. Keep walking towards me. Stay where you are. Stay where you are. Stay where you are. Hands on your head. Stay where you are. Face me. Hands on your head. Stay where you are. You're under arrest, all right?
It had taken police 3 weeks to find him. His DNA was not on their databases, but his father's was.
How do you feel right now?
In custody, the teenager said he was confused and scared, and later added he was autistic. Yet psychiatric analysis would declare him fit to stand trial.
He went through significant consultation with mental health workers in the police station, through the trial with his defence team, and by a number of people, and they all said he is fit to stand trial.
Outside the Old Bailey, the women's mother had nothing but praise for the detectives involved in the murder investigation.
This is an unbelievable day for us, but it's the first, and there are 2 more battles to go. But today we remember our girls as the wonderful, strong women they were. And we hope that some good will come out of this horrible story.
But the end of this trial is by no means the whole story. The way the Met Police responded to reports of the women going missing in the first 36 hours has been under investigation. Police say the first call from worried friends was late Saturday evening at 9 p.m. Nicola's boyfriend Adam Stone told the Old Bailey he later got a call cancelling a police visit to Bieber Henry's flat to at the very least get a photo of her. The friends were back in the park searching the following morning, Sunday the 7th of June. And it wasn't until 12 noon that the first officers were deployed where the women were last seen, 15 hours after the first initial calls. But as those officers were en route, the call came through, the friends had found the bodies.
It's not great, and my heart goes out to Adam Stone. He gave evidence, and I've listened to that 909 call, and it wasn't played out in court. It's just too distressing, and for him to find the bodies, I'm terribly sorry for that, but it's something which the police's response is under investigation now.
Danyal Hussein offered no evidence at trial beyond a complete denial that it was his DNA, his blood and his images in all the CCTV. The families and friends of the sisters are left to struggle to comprehend a teenager's demonic obsessions.